And we are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this live episode of the All Dolphins podcast for Thursday, January 26th, 2025. 4 days before the end of June. After that, it's the final month before the start of training camp at the end of July. Dolphins rookies, this is per the NFL, which released dates for every team. Dolphin rookies will be reporting to training camp on July 15th, veterans on July 22nd, and we're going to go over the Dolphins' latest news, non-news, look at the offseason transactions, what's going on, and then we'll attack, as we always do, the Q&A in the comments and all that good stuff. I thank you very much for those who have joined us so far. How long we'll go will depend on the viewership numbers, the participation, and all that good stuff. So this is where we are right now. Again, it is Thursday, June 26th, and all remains quiet on all the three major fronts of Dolphin news that is pending. These are the situations involving Jalen Ramsey, involving Jonnu Smith, involving Jonah Savainaya. We'll start with the last one first. We are now down to 33 2025 NFL draft picks who have not signed yet. There remain 30 of those from the second round. There are 2 first-round picks who have not signed. That's Shamar Stewart, the 17th overall pick of the Cincinnati Bengals. And then the other one is, as I look right now, Jedi Barron, of the Denver Broncos. And there is one single solitary 4th-round pick, that being Jack Kaiser, linebacker from Notre Dame, who was selected by the Jacksonville Jaguars. All the other 30 unsigned draft picks are second-round selections. And we have discussed on this podcast the reason being fully guaranteed contracts, which were not a reality for second-round picks before this year, became a reality when the Houston Texans gave one to the second pick in the round, that being Jaden Higgins from Iowa State, I want to say. And then the Cleveland Browns followed suit the next day by giving the same thing to linebacker Carson Schwessinger from UCLA. That was May, the early days of May. Since then, not a single solitary second-round pick has signed. I think what's going to happen is the dam's going to break eventually. Another team is going to give in, would be my guess, give their second-round pick a fully guaranteed contract, and then watch a whole bunch of draft picks then sign. Could be wrong. Been wrong before. Yes, I have. No, shocking, right? And I will be wrong again. But that would be my guess. And for the Dolphins, they need Jonah Savainaya pretty badly in 2025. They would like to, maintain a tradition of not fully guaranteeing the contract of the second-round pick. Again, the number last year for Patrick Paul was about $6.1 million of his $9 million contract was fully guaranteed. Savainaya was picked higher than Patrick Paul earlier in the second round, so the overall package is going to be more lucrative. Still, again, do the Dolphins really want to put themselves in a little bit of a pickle with Savainaya not showing up for training camp without a contract? I'm not sure that's a great way of doing business, and we'll see what happens there. As far as Jalen Ramsey is concerned, we have Tyreek Hill saying he's going to get involved. Said this at the Fanatics Fest last weekend, said it before that, the week before, that he was going to have a powwow, put on the full court press on Jalen Ramsey and convince him to desire to remain with the Dolphins. Got to be a two-way street, remember, though. Whether that situation is salvageable, tough call. And then for those wondering what exactly is going on, it's certainly not going to come from the Dolphins. And Jalen Ramsey has stayed pretty mum since the Rotten Orange Instagram post on draft night. Clearly, it's some sort of personality clash. difference of opinion. What's the holdup? I don't think it takes a rocket scientist again to suggest it's the same thing it's always been. Is Jalen Ramsey's due a 19-point-something million option by week 1? Dolphins are on the hook for it. It's guaranteed. And they're looking to get as much in compensation as possible for Ramsey, and other teams more than likely are balking unless the Dolphins pick up a chunk of that compensation. And this is where you have an impasse. Pretty safe to suggest the Dolphins would rather have this situation solved before the start of training camp than not have that hanging over their head. Tyreek Hill notwithstanding, obviously the Dolphin players way more than not would prefer having Ramsey on the roster because he's a really good player. And without him, the Dolphins secondary is, as I've been going through the rosters of not only the Dolphins, but every AFC East teams for ranking the AFC rosters and where the Dolphins stand among those teams series on Miami Dolphins on SI.com for free, which I hope you check out. The secondary is not pretty. We're looking at the names for the Dolphins. It's just a whole bunch of question marks and unproven players. They have unproven players and question marks at other spots. Nothing like the secondary. And then there's certain positions for other teams that are really, really good. The Dolphins' best position probably is the edge position, assuming Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips can return to form after both dealing with injuries the past 2 years. Jalen Phillips had the Achilles in 2023, the ACL in 2024. Bradley Chubb had the massive knee injury in 2023, spent all of last year rehabbing. If those two come back and are healthy and can be close to what they were before the injuries hit, combined with Chop Robinson, who looked so good in the second half of last season, Dolphins have massive possibilities in terms of those guys and what it could do for the pass rush. And that in turn, of course, obviously would make life easier for the secondary, which is nothing overly shocking there. And then there's a Jonnu Smith situation. Again, we're a little less than a month away from when veterans report. There'll be more conversations between Drew Rosenhaus and the Dolphins to try to bridge a distance very clearly. Right now, there have been talks ongoing. Jonnu Smith through Drew Rosenhaus wants more than the Dolphins are willing to give. And Jonnu Smith is not willing, and the Dolphins want to pay Jonnu Smith less than what they want. So again, this is always the old finding a middle ground. Still, nothing has changed my mind that I would be very surprised if Jonnu Smith was not on the roster in 2025. He's a good locker room guy. He's a good part of the offense, even though I have said before, I don't think his loss would be insurmountable, but the Dolphins clearly would rather have him than not have him. And then eventually these things usually work themselves out. I did want to look up here. The one thing that's interesting about the Dolphins so far this year is they have not signed anybody to extensions. And if you look around the NFL, other than guys whose contracts were expiring, they had to re-sign, such as Tyrell Dotson was re-signed as a free agent. Benito Jones was re-signed as a free agent. They have not given any extension to guys who were already under contract the way they did last year. At this time last year, the one guy that they had done was Jalen Waddle, who was signed, I believe, I want to say sometime in June. Memory fails, which is when he would have gotten his contract extension. But nobody so far. Zach Sealer certainly a candidate for a contract extension. Perhaps more of priority than Jonnu Smith. Jordan Brooks could be somebody else who would be a candidate for an extension, but nothing so far has happened along those lines, as we mentioned. And then if you look at the Dolphin transaction, I wanted to do this very quickly as well before we start tackling the comments, which I always like as well. It's been a rather quiet offseason in terms of roster moves for the Dolphins. And if you go back, like since the draft, this is the extent of the Dolphin moves. And then I'm pretty sure if I were to go back, it would pale in comparison to what we've seen. The moves they've made since the start of rookie minicamp, after the players released the day before, was signing long snapper Joe Cardona, waiving long snapper Neil Hibbett, who had been signed as a rookie free agent, signing cornerback Kendall Sheffield, and I've said this before, don't sleep on him as a potential starter at cornerback for the Dolphins. Just throwing it out there. Dolphins also claimed Matthew Butler, the defensive tackle from the Raiders, off waivers, waived one of their rookie free agent defensive tackles, Trayvon Ribka. They signed quarterback Brett Gabbert, another UDFA, after he had participated in the rookie minicamp on a tryout basis, making room for him by waiving William Bradley King. They placed Jason Maitre on IR because of a torn Achilles and signed Ryan Cooper Jr., who they had claimed off waivers from Seattle and then released earlier in the offseason. And then finally, the last move is they placed Teron Armstead on the reserve retired list, which was coming all along, obviously. And then they signed defensive tackle Ben Stille, who had been with the team a couple of years back and has spent some time with the Arizona Cardinals. So very, very, very quiet in terms of moves. If you look at free agency, there were no huge moves there. Is it going to? I believe it's going to pick up in July in terms of signing a couple of guys, particularly once the Jalen Ramsey situation is finally resolved. Could be a cornerback on the way, whether it be Mike Hilton, whether it be Stephon Gilmore, whether it be Rasul Douglas, whether it be Asante Samuel Jr. Those are four names that I would throw out there. Possibly another offensive lineman. Brandon Scherf is still out there, although I do think the Dolphins right now would probably prefer being settled with Jonas Avainaya and James Daniels as there's two starting guards. But I don't believe that it's out of the realm of possibility. The Dolphins could be looking to perhaps upgrade that spot. Safety, I get the feeling the Dolphins are okay at safety in terms of what they have and going to camp with those guys, Ashen Davis, Ifatu, Melifonwu, to go along with Elijah Campbell and Patrick Morris from last year. So, again, not a ton of news going on right now. Tyreek Hill spoke at the Fanatics Fest last weekend. By the way, that race is not dying. The race with Noah Lyles, he mentioned it again. He said they were in contract negotiations when Lyles bailed out, but he still would like to get something off the ground. That being before the offseason. Well, he better hurry up because we got about 4 weeks left. And then we should mention as well that this week was the late, great Jason Jenkins, former senior vice president of communications and community affairs for the Miami Dolphins, was being honored by the Pro Football Hall of Fame with an award of excellence, along with longtime team videographer Dave Hack. So hat tip to those for a job well done. I don't know that there's a whole lot else in terms of news. I'm going to check real quickly here. Please bear with me. Odell Beckham Jr., we should mention that. Interesting. We wrote about this on Miami Dolphins on SI.com. Instagram post with his son by his side looking at MetLife Stadium and kind of saying something, and then some cryptic words suggesting that almost maybe he's longing for perhaps a return. Malik Neighbors, the Giants' first-round pick from last year, with a comment basically saying, bring it on. That's coming from them. Don't know that the Giants have made her have any inclination to bring back Odell Beckham Jr. We saw with the Dolphins last year. Unfortunately, this is a guy who obviously his best days are behind him. This is not exactly going on a limb, but he looked like a guy who may or may not have much left to offer, which was a deal with Jordan Porter last year when the Dolphins signed him. He did start a lot of games, was a starter for the full year, but clearly not the same player he was during his heyday with the Buffalo Bills. Good team guy, plays his heart out, warrior type of guy. But again, the skill set, not what it once was, because Father Time, guess what? Usually is undefeated, always undefeated. Teron Armstead, if you didn't catch it, completed his stint 3 days as a host for Good Morning Football. A lot of praise for Tua with a comparison to Drew Brees in terms of the skill set. Again, this is not anything that really wasn't clear before. I mean, they're both in terms of the skill set, they're very similar quarterbacks. The hope for the Dolphins is that Tua Tagovailoa eventually has the same kind of success that Drew Brees has, considering the guy is headed to the Hall of Fame. And then the next day he followed up with some heavy praise on Chop Robinson, the aforementioned first-round pick from 2024, who is coming off a very good rookie season. So I do want to mention something about on the website on MiamiDolphinsOnSide.com. I have an ongoing series of the top 100 plays of the first quarter of the new millennium, the 25 years. There have been 25 seasons in the 2000s. Top 100 plays. They're all there. I encourage you to check it out. I had fun putting it together. It's laborious, but it's interesting. And to me, it brought me back some good memories of some like really, really cool plays and good moments for the Dolphins. Of course, there will be one. Actually, I shouldn't end it. Well, okay, fine. I'm going to spoiler alert at some point in the countdown. There's going to be the play that produced the one Dolphins playoff win in this millennium so far. Of course, that's the Lamar Smith touchdown against the Indianapolis Colts in 2000. So enough babbling from me. This show is about way more than me. It's about you guys. And I want to get this interaction going. Again, big heart, the floating hearts for joining me this evening. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. More importantly, check out the website, MiamiDolphinsOnSide.com. So let's see what's on your mind, guys. And here we go. We are going to start with Joe Ronimo. Thank you very much for the contribution, Joe. Much appreciated. Tyreek talking lately like he knows he's still on the team, still big if the new O-line gives a consistent run game, short and first, second. How could teams stop this offense with this potential balance? Tyreek Hill's going to be on the team. I would be shocked if he weren't. What he said about I'm out and then all that good stuff, yeah, that was him talking out of frustration. He wants to be with the Dolphins. Dolphins are not going to trade him. You trading Tyreek Hill is punting on the 2025 season, which I don't think the Dolphins want to do. They're in a semi-transition season. It's not the all-out thing that they've done in the past, but they're not punting on the season at all. They have a ton of question marks, too many for my taste, but they also have potential if a lot of those question marks provide good answers. And one of those, as you brought up, certainly is the offensive line. If the offensive line can help the running game, if Tyreek's not injured the whole year, Tyreek was hurt the whole year last year, that's a big part of why his numbers were down. Was the offensive line really that much better in 2023 than it was last year? Yeah, it was at one point, absolutely. Without question, because they had Robert Hunt, and that was a big loss. Again, $20 million, that's harsh for a guard. The offensive line does not need to be the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line or even the Buffalo Bills offensive line. It needs to be solid, and then you let the scheme take over, you let the speed take over, and you let the chemistry with Tua and the receivers take over, and there are intriguing possibilities. I don't know about unstoppable, but it should be, if everything works out, a very, very good offense once again. So Noah, thank you very much. Noah Super Sticker, much appreciated. Let's go over here. We'll go from the top. Oh no, this is go. Yeah, we go. Here we go from the top. Up. Hi gang, and we're off. Dana, how you doing, buddy? Oh, there we go, Mike. 26th wedding anniversary tomorrow. Please tip your Montreal Caps, sir. Thank you. There you go. Not only that deserves a tip of the hat, and this, Mike. Congratulations. I got to 20 this year, and I'm very proud of myself. 26, you should be even prouder. Marsalis, hey, Poop, going live on a weekday must be the off season. It is the off season. Marsalis, it is the off season. By the way, I went, when did I go live last? I believe I went live last Thursday, actually, also. No, couldn't have been. I was out of town. I see now the days run together, and I don't know. But I have gone live on a weekday before, usually in the off season. But in the regular season, it's every single solitary day. Going to be live after games, and don't know yet the other plans, but it'll be every day in the regular season, live after the game. Let's see here. Okay, I'll address this very quickly and then drop it. Nestor, what do you make of Lamb saying he never said the Dolphins are soft? I'm going to take him at his word. It's not like he would have been the first one to say. First of all, the quote that was made up was not about the Dolphins being soft. It was about bad culture, and he's not the first one to have said that. And there are plenty of other players who have left the Dolphins who have said being soft was an issue. So that's all there is to that, basically. Marsalis again. Hey, Marsalis, I'm still celebrating our hockey championship. Let's forget about football for a week. Can we? How about why can't we do both? Go Panthers. Yeah, and I know the sad part about the Panthers is they won the championship last Tuesday, and then next Tuesday, literally 2 weeks after, is the start of free agency, and if they don't take care of their business, they could lose some key players. Although the word is for those Panther fans that Bill Zito has said he can find a way to keep the three main pending free agents, Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, Aaron Ekblad, and the scuttlebutt is he just may be able to pull it off. So Dana says shares in the happy anniversary. Absolutely going to bring that up. Mike, not good if the second pick misses substantial time of training camp. Yeah, it would not be good for a rookie. Absolutely would not be good. I do get the feeling this thing's going to get resolved before the start of training camp, and it's uncharted territory because with the new CBA, generally speaking, you were looking at, I mean, everything. The amounts were set. It's basically guarantees and offsets usually are going to be your issues, and that's never come up before until now. And again, the Houston Texans for having started that. But again, at some point, it's gonna be an avalanche type of effect that one team's going to give in, and that'll take care of it. I don't know. What do we got here? Joe, again, thank you very much, Joe. Much appreciated. When you say the oil was better at one point in 2023 before Matt injuries there, that's when the offense actually looked unstoppable, though. You're correct. It also was the other factor that cannot be understated. And I can't stress this enough. Tyreek was not right physically all of last year. And it's not that I have a Tyreek thing, but I've seen him at practice. I've observed him. You guys cannot underestimate what he does for the offense when he's right. Not just the playmaking he has. It's how badly he spreads out a defense. Last year he was playing hurt. It was one thing or another. It wasn't just the wrist. He had some foot issues as well. That made a difference also. But yeah, when the Dolphins' offense was at its best in 2023, yeah, before the injuries took hold, if everybody could have stayed healthy, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, who knows what the possibility would have been. But one of those, we will never know for sure. Dana, is Ramsey still a really good player, though? If that were true, teams would not be asking the Dolphins to pay a portion of his contract, but he's definitely better in the corners who are currently, I'm assuming you mean on the roster. Yeah, Ramsey's still a pretty damn good player. He had a couple of games last year where it wasn't great, like Arizona stands out. Jacksonville had one play, but they also gave up a touchdown that really wasn't his guy. He was helping out, and the guy wound up behind him, and it looked like Ramsey was to blame. But if you look at the overhead replay, it wasn't his. And then he had another game down. The Jets Garrett Wilson gave him a hard time. But he's still a very good player. But nobody's paying $20 million for a cornerback, unless you're Patrick Surtain, you're Derek Stingley, and Ramsey is not quite at that level right now. He's also 30. So no. But yes, he's still good. Austin, Sealer and Grant will be nice. Sign that man. What man are we talking about? Kenneth Grant's already signed, so I don't know what you're saying. Marsalis, Edge can't stay healthy, so they aren't best units. And they haven't played yet. So, and they both took part in the offseason program. They were there in the practices that I witnessed. So you can't. Are we going to give them the Tua treatment and say that they can't stay healthy? So no, I can't say that. And I did say when I talked about the edge position that it was assuming they would stay healthy and get back to their pre-injury form. Not a guarantee. There are no guarantees on this team, basically, because Tyreek's got to get back to his 2023 form. Tua's got to stay healthy. There are no guarantees on this team. Sorry, and pardon me, that applies to a lot of teams around the NFL. Every team has question marks. Every team has to stay healthy. The Dolphins just happen to have a lot of prominent players who are coming off injuries. Billy Batson honor Ramsey's contract as a stupidity tax and trade him with pay for 2 fifth-round picks. I don't even know you get 2 fifth-round picks, even with so you're suggesting the Dolphins pick up the tab on that option and trade him for 2. I'm not even. I don't know if you get 2 fifth-round picks. Maybe. Dolphins are not picking up the whole tab, though. I'd be shocked. Tim, I'm too young to remember the 70s champion Dolphins and too old to remember. That went over my head, sorry. Cap for Life, ESPN's Aaron Schatz has suggested Keenan Allen as a potential free agent signing from Miami. He argues that Allen's experience and skill set as a veteran slot receiver would complement the Dolphins. That's a no thank you for me. I was told that Keenan Allen was looking to either re-sign with the Bears or go back to Southern California. Remember, he played for the Chargers because of family interest or foundation type of thing. And the other issue with Keenan Allen is he's just not – if you remember prime Keenan Allen from the Chargers, yeah, that'd be great. He's not that guy anymore. That's number one. Number two, Malik Washington is – to me, was very intriguing toward the end of last year, and I'm not so sure I wouldn't just flat out prefer him to Keenan Allen. And by the way, that story was part of a one last remaining move for every team in the offseason. And for me, for the Dolphins, it's like I can't imagine that your last remaining move wouldn't be either finally make the trade involving Jalen Ramsey, sign John Smith to a new contract, sign Jonas Avainaya, or even sign Zach Sleeter to a contract extension, or sign a cornerback. But signing Keenan Allen, yeah, I saw that and I was like, I'm sorry, what? That didn't register with me. Smith N with the contribution. Thank you very much. Those are very, very much appreciated. So big thank you for everyone who contributes that way. Joe, again, thank you very much. I don't for a second discount Tyreek when fully healthy, but if a wide receiver or cornerback is opening up the offense that much, we should run the ball more consistently. They did run the ball more consistently in 2023. Where they came up short is short yardage situations. That's been an ongoing problem. And I have said repeatedly, I'm concerned that it's going to continue being an ongoing problem when the opposing team knows you're going to run because your offensive scheme is built around spreading out the offense laterally, and your offensive lineman, basically, you're stressing mobility and athleticism and the ability to get to the second level as opposed to physical nastiness, which comes in handy when you're running on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and the opposing team knows you're doing that. We'll see how it plays out. But obviously, Dolphins have to be better at that. They can be better at that, and they have to be better overall running the ball back to where they were for most of 2023. Let's not forget also 2023, they had a couple of games that really skewed their stats overall. The Denver game is one of them. I mean, they rushed for like 250 yards that game, and they had another one, 250 or 350. I mean, it was a ridiculous number. And then they had another game, might have been Carolina or something, or the Giants, where they also had like really big rushing numbers. But I don't expect it. The Dolphins' bread and butter, while the roster is constructed the way it is going to be the quick passing game. That's just, nothing's going to change that. And I know it's maybe a dream for some folks to have like a dominant offensive line with a punishing running game. It's not how the roster is constructed. Here we go. Billy Batson, trade Ramsey to the highest bidder and good riddance. Yeah, except the Dolphins right now are not getting any offer that pleases them. And I don't know how many teams are banging on the door. Again, the contract's an issue. Austin, could you imagine if we kept Flores and made McDaniel the OC? That would be interesting, but yeah, I don't know how well the two of them would work together. I'm going to be honest with you. You want to talk about polar opposites? Marcellus says Weaver's a better DC than who? Than Brian Flores? Oh, yes, then Flores. You're saying that, Marcellus? In that case, if that's your statement, we will respectfully disagree. I think Brian Flores is a hell of a defensive coordinator. Frozen Fin Fan, my favorite Expos fan. That deserves this. I like Weaver too. I like Weaver too. I think Weaver's very, very good. I think Brian Flores is exceptional as a defensive mind. Austin, Poop, do you think, by the way, it's P-O-U-P, not just for the record. Do you think the Finns will improve on the sideline during games, i.e. getting plays in before having to waste time out, second half adjustments? I've heard this second half adjustment thing before, and then I go back and I don't remember last year's as well as I did the years before, but you look at their success on the first drive of the second half, it was crazy, as in crazy good. So that I think is overblown. Having to waste time out, that was not as much of an issue last year as it was in 2023. So that was a bonus. Of course, they didn't do as much motion last year as they did the previous year. I think that's something they should get back to. I really do. I think that was insanely effective. Billy, I can live with Weaver as head coach, but Coach Gruden is the move. Okay. Shall see. Dana, you're talking to Billy. I'll jump in if that's okay with you. Steelers, Chargers, and Dolphins are all bumble playoff teams. How stupid would Grim McDaniel feel if they miss the playoffs by one game or a tiebreaker after the trade? You're assuming. Yeah, and Dana's asked this question about the wisdom or lack thereof of trading Ramsey to an AFC playoff bubble type of team, and there's certainly merit to that. I think, though, the Dolphins would prefer taking that chance if it means accomplishing the addition by subtraction that's in the process of being done. And this is all it is with the Jalen Ramsey move, based on everything that has been reported and basically discussed. Delusional Patriots fan. So talking up Tua was payment. I don't know what that means. Cap for life. We're comparing Drew Brees to our quarterback. Remember, Drew Brees never re-signed with the Chargers. Correct. Well, the Chargers made the decision. Drew Brees was drafted in 2001. Didn't play it down that year. Played one game. Didn't start, but he came in for one game. Then he became the starter in 2002, 2003. And then the Chargers obviously didn't think he was going to be the long-term answer. And then they made the move for Phillip Rivers in 2004. Brees stayed on 2004, 2005 as the starter before he signed with the Saints in 2006 instead of the Dolphins because he failed his physical. So, again, the comparison with Tua and Drew Brees is stylistic. The numbers are fairly similar early on, even though I've made the argument for those who watch the Dolphins Collective Tuesday night and during the offseason, we're going every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Doug Lee Do Wrong, TDefense.com, Mark Kelly, and myself. I made the argument that while Drew Brees had good teams around him and good players around him as well, without question, he never had the kind of stupid speed, like defense-changing speed that Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Devon Achane present. So to say, bottom line is there's similarities, but again, if you put numbers side by side, and again, it's a different time. If you look at the passing yards, the passer ratings, generally speaking, they're all better now than they were in 2004 when Drew Brees was coming up. All that to say is I think to suggest, no, not the suggestion, but to say Tua was on the same trajectory as Drew Brees Might be a little bit of a stretch. So. Joe again, thank you. Basically, if I'm saying if Daniels comes back well, Ensavai is solid by the end, maybe OG2 carves out a role. I'm in love with this offense. OG2, who's OG2? It's got if the offensive line is really good, the offense has possibilities. Patrick Paul's also got to deliver at left tackle, and Tua's got to stay healthy. And no, it's not the offensive line that's gotten Tua hurt. This is something that seems to be also misspoken quite a bit. That the offensive line, got Tua hurt. No, he got hurt against Cincinnati in 2022 because he held the ball too long. In the first play, the Matt Milano play when we got the nasty shove was a play that took a really, really long time. The one time that was on the offensive line was 2021, actually, when AJ Epinesa nailed him in the ribs after getting around Jesse Davis. The Green Bay Packers game with the second concussion, kind of play where he had the ball for a bit, and then last year, scramble, run straight into DeMar Hamlin, and then the hip injury is he's scrambling, and instead of dumping it off to Jonnu Smith while he was still behind the line of scrimmage, he continued running instead and winds up getting sideswiped by Mario Edwards Jr. So not on the offensive line. But yes, I'm with you, which is why I am not washing away the Dolphin season, even though they do have an awful lot of question marks. But the potential is there on offense to be really, really good. Nick, thank you very much for the contribution. That's a good question. I like this one. Which Dolphins team was more fun to watch, 1984, 2002, or 2003? I'm going to eliminate 2002 because it was it's a boring style because it was basically very conservative on offense, a whole lot of Ricky Williams, who was brilliant that year, but I'm not necessarily a fan. I like the ball in the air. And good defense was the other part of the formula. It was a very good formula, and I think I wrote this as part of the top 100 plays of the 2000s so far. That team to me was the most frustrating. What happened to that team was more frustrating than almost just about any team because that was a really good team. In fact, late in the season, they beat the Oakland Raiders, the team that wound up representing the AFC in the Super Bowl, and the Dolphins lost Jay Fiedler for 6 games. They were 2-4 during that time. So see, it's not always just with Tua that getting a backup quarterback in there can cause issues. And then the Dolphins, for lack of a better term, kind of gagged on the stretch, lost at Minnesota, at New England. They blew a 24-13 lead with 5 minutes left when everything that could go wrong went wrong in those 5 minutes, including a New England kickoff that looked like it was headed for the end zone. All of a sudden takes a side bounce, and the Dolphins have to field it, and they wind up with horrible field position. So then it becomes 84 or 2023. It's very close. They were both dynamic offensively. Dolphin offense was more varied in 2023. I'd probably say that actually was a more fun team to watch because the Dolphins 1984 team was not a very good running team, but their passing game was revolutionary at that time. And again, if you look numbers for era, the way Marino obliterated the existing records was completely crazy. It's like nothing the league had seen before. But it wasn't a great defense, and it wasn't like it wasn't that they weren't good. They weren't necessarily that fun to watch on defense. Their running game was nothing special. The 2023 team, when it was operating, was really, really fun to watch. And they had really good players all over the place. So I think I might go to 2023 team. Oh, God, I hope I don't butcher your name, and I apologize if I do. Yador Castro, hello, Alan. I just want to thank you for all the work you do to keep us fans up to date with everything. What's your take on our safeties? Talk about another position where a whole lot of unproven players right there. There's something there with Ife Melifonwu, but he's been hurt more often than not. I worry about his physical makeup. He's kind of long, and I think it was Omar who compared his body to look to that of a praying mantis. He's got a unique body that has me a little bit concerned about how well he can hold up physically, but he does have ball skills. Ashton Davis is intriguing because he never got a lot of playing time with the Jets, but he made plays. And you have Patrick Morris and Elijah Campbell, who are two guys backups from last year. I would say hopeful, but also realistic that there's no proven commodity there. There's no long track record for either one of those guys, which is why if the Dolphins were to decide to do something and bring in a veteran option at the position, I would have zero objection to it, to be honest with you. Joe, again, thank you so very much. OL for me is always about giving to a consistent running game, not about keeping him healthy. No, that's fair. Absolutely. But again, we need to define what a consistent running game is. There were games last year when they ran the ball very well, and they weren't doing much in the passing game. In fact, let me pull this bad boy up real quick. As you'll see what I'm talking about here. Because it's not necessarily all that simple. Like in the games that Tua played, for example, I'm going to go this as quickly as I can. Okay, so against Jacksonville in the opener, this is last year. Okay, so it's 81 yards rushing, 3.2. That sucked, and the Dolphin offense was sucking until they got the big play to Tyreek and won the game. Against Buffalo, misleading, but they ran for, although they were passing pretty much. By the time Tua left the game, it was a whole lot of passing. Passing. They rushed 439 yards, 4.1 per carry. They did nothing offensively, and they were bad offensively. Tua comes back against Arizona, $150 on rushing, 6.0. Okay, that proves your point. The offense was good that day. Against Buffalo, the offense was good that day. Also, 149, 4.8. Although there was a fumble by Mosher that didn't help. Against the Rams, 3.0, 67 yards rushing, but they were able to win the game, made enough plays offensively, even though this was a defense-driven game. See, and then there we go. Against the Raiders, 82 yards rushing, 3.2. Offense moved the ball very well. New England the following week, 65 yards rushing, 2.7. Offense moved the ball very well. Green Bay couldn't run the ball. Offense moved the ball once they were down 27-3, so that didn't work. Jets couldn't run the ball, 44 yards, 2.3, passed the ball at will. And again, a lot of this is they compensated for the lack of a running game at times last year. How? With the short passing, which is almost kind of a running game, extension of the running game. You hear that quite a bit. Houston, 2.7 per carry, 52 yards. Offense sucked that day from A to Z. Didn't help that your starting tackles were Jackson Carman and Patrick Paul. San Francisco, $166, although we need to say that one of those was a 50-yard by HN at the end of the game, which really boosted the numbers. So it's not necessarily – obviously it helps. I mean, no doubt. But I don't know that the Dolphins necessarily must be a dominant running team to have success offensively. Could be wrong. Been wrong before. We'll be wrong again. Cliff D, Tua is more like Marino than Breeze. If it's a joke, it's funny. If it's not a joke, I don't know what to tell you because it could not be. Yeah. or as Marcellus says, I want the stuff Cliff is smoking. Yeah. Seriously, dude, come on. Again, I hope you were joking. Maybe Tua needs to bounce on his toes like Breeze does, like Breeze did. You're right. I've never seen him do that. It hurt us not having Jackson, absolutely. But as I've mentioned several times before, another factor in the running game really losing steam was also that at the time Austin Jackson went on IR was when Teron Armstead started having issues with his knees and basically not practicing. And if you saw a lot of plays, that he would finish a play and then start like hopping basically. So Rafael Tua is a quality backup QB, but the Dolphins made him QB1. No, that's not accurate. No. Tua is a good starting quarterback. And this is coming from somebody who has pushed back when people try to go nuts and point to his numbers and want to use the word elite and all that. But no, Rafael, you're going too far the other way. Tua is a good starting quarterback. 2023 offensive line was way better before injuries. Yeah, that offensive line, when healthy with Teron Armstead, Liam was the left guard, Connor Williams at center, Robert Hunt at right guard, and then Austin Jackson. That was a pretty good group. Robert Hunt's a very, very good offensive lineman. Again, $20 million for a guard. I don't know if I'm crazy about it. By the way, I mentioned Christian Wilkins earlier, along the lines of Robert Hunt here, because we talk about the big free agent losses in the 2024 offseason. I don't know if you saw, again, on MiamiDolphinsOnSide.com, latest with him, and the pictures at Kyle Van Noy's Family Foundation golf tournament, and he's back in a walking boot. A month before training camp. It's not terribly encouraging for a guy who missed the last 12 games last year because of that Jones fracture. I mean, knock on wood, hope everything works out for Christian. He's a good dude, but man, this is like starting to look a little bit ominous. Agent Navy, I'm more worried about our defense tackling issues. Too many missed tackles last year. You are not wrong. You are not wrong. I love this. William, thank you so very much. Just very kind. Happy Annie, brother. I'm sure you're directing that to our friend Mike, celebrating 26 years. That's good. You're not catching my parents, so I'm not catching my parents. They were married for 69 years. That's a long time. Like Marino, Tua can't win the big games. I think Marino won more big games than Tua's won big games, but it takes a team. It's not just a quarterback. But that's a fair criticism. Marino never won a Super Bowl, even though it should not be all on the quarterback, as I've said many, many, many times, because Marino was 18 times a quarterback. Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls. Jim Plunkett won 2 Super Bowls. Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. So it's not all about the quarterback. Matt, the OL may need to be more than solid in this division. The Bills always kill us on the lines, and now New England and the Jets have coaches that will have pushed for strong line play. You are not wrong. Oh, interesting. Robert, love the Montreal Expos hat. Do you have a Montreal Alouettes hat? I do not. Should get one of those. I should get one of those. William, have you ever heard a head coach refer to his players as teammates? Don't know what that refers to. I don't recall Mike McDaniel saying that. He's saying that Jalen Ramsey and Tyreek Hill, for example, would be his teammates. I've never heard that. Stephen S. Hey, Poop, would you have Barry Jackson on this podcast? I've tried, was told it wasn't going to happen. Poop, can you explain why the front office hangs on to Cam Smith? My feeling is a complete bust and we should move on. Because Cam Smith's on his rookie contract. The signing bonuses have been paid. His base salary is peanuts. There's something there. There is ability there, and the Dolphins are not about to squander the chance to see it come to fruition for them until they're sure it's not happening. But I do believe that we're getting closer to a point of no return than we were before. Humble legend, I just survived 18 years of child support. Tip your cap to me too, LOL. There you go. So I'm sorry to hear that. Big Lebowski, loved your movie. My 12th anniversary is Saturday. Probably going to dump her and avoid having to go to a fancy dinner. Go fancy. Come on now. Do the right thing. It's funny. It's funny, but do the right thing. Missed tackles and third down stops are key to keeping our offense on the field. Sure. without question. Third down defense is always. You know what else would really help on defense? Takeaways. Remember the 2020 season? Dolphins were like 18th or 20th in total yards allowed. They were 10-6, led the NFL in takeaways. Want those takeaways. But I don't know how confident I am about there being a lot of takeaways in 2025 with a secondary that's so full of question marks. This is where the pass rush would need to really, really shine. Joe, again, thank you very much, sir. With AJ out, Teron hobbling in our guards last year, what's the best you would have expected of our offense last year, especially in regard to the run game? Sure. No, late in the season, no, absolutely, without question. But, and again, the Dolphins were what? They were 2-6, finished 6-3 down the stretch. And this is before the injuries to Austin Jackson and Teron Armstead. So that wasn't, and if you look at those losses at the end, Green Bay, I don't know that I put the loss on the offensive line. The Green Bay, they were bad defensively. They had the bad turnover on special teams early in the game, and the offense didn't do anything until it was 27-3. And Tua was not good, again, until it was 27-3. And it wasn't because he was facing pressure all the time. He was off. There was a drive in the second quarter that was brutal that he misfired on like 3 straight passes. Like you never see that from him. The dude is very, very accurate. He had a sequence there. I don't know what happened. Against Houston, there was a lot of pressure because the 2 tackles were missing. Was it all on the offensive line? No, there were a couple of miscues as well. So, and then the Jets loss, to me, I have a hard time really putting a whole lot of stock into it when the Dolphins looking at the scoreboard and it's 21-0 basically. They're not even halfway through the first quarter, at MetLife Stadium. So, no, we're going to do this. Hold on. Don't like to put back. Here we go. Okay, we're approaching an hour here. I'm going to see here what we got, what else we got. And then, Dana, you're harsh, my man. At this point in his career, I believe Ramsey is closer to mediocre than great. As I did with Marsalis earlier, I will respectfully disagree. Rafael, what about Von Miller to Dolphins? Von Miller showed nothing last year. Very, very little. Also was coming off a torn ACL. You already have 2 injured guys coming off injuries. Why? So it's a no for me. Whoops. It's a big no for me. Billy Ramsey could be him again at safety. By the way, if you guys follow my podcast, I've been a long time followers, and I hope you have. And if you haven't subscribed yet, the hell are you waiting for? I despise that term. Like he could be him. Yeah, he is him as I am me, and you are you, and we are all together. Cuckoo, cuckoo, I am the walrus. I can't stand that expression, but I said this from when the Dolphins acquired Jalen Ramsey that he'd be an intriguing guy at safety. I've mentioned it many times, but since Rod Woodson made that transition, Jalen Ramsey has a very, very similar skill set. I think he could be a complete stud at safety for any team that wants to use him at the position. On a Ronald Tyrone, I believe. Apologies if I didn't pronounce it. What do you think about Melvin Ingram? I really liked him. I recall enough of his contribution. He was out of football last year, so that ship has sailed. Greg, Xavier Howard taking a year off is big. He's probably slowed down so much. Yeah, I don't know what you get from him, but I'm not sure why the Dolphins wouldn't at least make a phone call, bring him in for a workout, see what he looks like. Smith, did you hear any talk of Dolphin interest level in Jair Alexander? I don't know if they had a shot. I probably would have wanted to go on the cheap, and that being the case, he was going to go to Baltimore to be reunited with Lamar Jackson. And check out the YouTube video of his reaction. They played together at Louisville. First round pick there in the green room, and when he heard Lamar Jackson was the final pick of the first round, his reaction was really, really cool. And why wouldn't he want to go play with Baltimore, which year after year is among the Super Bowl contenders. Marsalis X was getting soft tissue injuries. Now people want him to play with the year off. Crazy. You're absolutely right. It was getting to be a problem year after year with the injuries. Does it really hurt that much to bring him in for a workout, see what he looks like, and not overpay him? Philip, question on a scale of 1 to 10, being no confidence, 1 being no confidence, 10 being total confidence. What is your level of confidence that Patrick Paul takes the next step in his game at left tackle? 5.7. How's that? I am from Brooklyn. Yoel, nix the hat sometimes. You look good, my dude. Oh, here we go. Just for you. See, I don't like how that looks. See, sometimes I like the way the hair looks. Right now, I have hat head. I don't like the way that looks. So I'm going to put it back on. Maybe, I promise I will take it under advisement for a next episode. Okay. See, Mads gets it. Keep rocking the hat. Never forget what they took from you. Matt, I am so bitter because I grew up. Montreal won the Stanley Cup 6 times in the 1970s. It's were my growing years. The Expos obviously never did. But I also was there, saw their first game ever, 1969. Shea Stadium. I think it was a Monday afternoon. They won 11-10. And I was hardcore Expos fan, like listening to games on the radio, hardcore. And the strike of 1994 hurt me bad. And then the team leaves. So that's part of this. Greg Ramsey could have a big season if he stuck around and played with a potential elite D-line. Potentially D-line. I'm assuming you're counting the edges because I think we need to go easy on go easy on the defensive lines at this point, because we don't know for sure yet just how good Kenneth Grant's going to be right off the bat. Oh, a little guess here. My apologies. Brian, a couple of years ago, you and Omar wouldn't rank McDaniel and Dolphin coaches you've covered. Can you do it now? Sure. Okay. So Don Shula, obviously. Jimmy Johnson's number 2. I'm trying to remember the other ones. Nick Saban was a great strategist, bad at player relations. Cam Cameron was forgettable. Joe Philbin was mid, as the kids would say. Adam Gase was okay. Brian Flores was a good coach, kind of like Saban, great strategist, not necessarily great at player relations. So I would put against Shula, Jimmy Johnson, Dave Wanstead. Dave Wanstead was let down by personnel when it was too defensive for his taste, for my taste. Shula, Johnson, Brian Flores. Sorry, people are not going to like to hear this. Nick Saban, McDaniel would be what I would have right now. Am I forgetting somebody? Oh, Tony Sperano. Maybe a little too conservative for my taste, but he'd be right there with McDaniel. Oh, there you go. No. Yep, we have this one here. No, again with a super sticker. Thank you so much, Noah. Much appreciated. And we're going to be close to wrapping this up. Let's go very quickly. Rapid fire, as they say. Mike says 1984. Okay, that's fine. I will not have Doug Lee, what's the word I'm looking for? Slander here, please. You know what? do that somewhere else. Dudley could not be more of a gem of a guy, so I'm not interested in that. Travis, this is a story for every team. Except the Dolphins have more ifs than other teams. I hear what you're saying. They have a lot more ifs. Like I've just gone through the Buffalo roster and not a ton of ifs on that team. You look at, they should be good at a whole lot of positions. Well, got him hurt when Jesse Davis missed that block. Yeah, I didn't mention that. I said that. JFNS, week 2, 2021. Yes. Jesse Davis, by the way, announced his retirement on Instagram a couple of days ago. Happy trails. Really good dude. Big fan of Jesse Davis as a guy. As a player, he was versatile, played a whole lot of position, played hurt a lot of times. Was he a great player? No, he wasn't quite as bad as a lot of Dolphin fans made it seem. Greg is on his own worst enemy, holding the ball too long and running headfirst in defenders. Yes, although 2 years ago, he was very good at not holding the ball too long. Chad, love you on here. Pupara, watch you, Doug Leo, Omar from the Collective. Anytime it's on YouTube, keep up the good work. Thank you, Chad. Much appreciated. Marcellus, 2002 run, Ricky run. It was boring. It was successful, but it was boring. And and this is me saying this, as saying that Ricky Williams may have been one of the most impressive players I've seen covering the Dolphins. I mean, that dude was a running back. Hopefully we have a three-headed monster at running back. Again, in a wild best case scenario, sure. Jay Fiedler was the last QB to win a playoff game. You are correct, sir. Jay Fiedler had a great one-loss record until he went south in 2004. I believe he was 36-23 his first 4 years Dolphin starter, and was never somebody who was accused of being a great quarterback. So that part of it, when you talk about QB, that one-loss record for QB, Fiedler was a great athlete, pretty stretch. He could scramble. I don't know if I'd call him a great athlete. 2023 were paper tigers. Yeah, but when it looked good, it looked really good, and it was fun. Chris Carter had a great TD catch in the Raiders game, did he? If he did, that's all he did, because he did not produce very much in that 2002 season when he was signed by the Dolphins late. The Dolphins did that with a couple of guys who came in here. In fact, I think I did something about that one time. It was Chris Carter. Thurman Thomas did the same thing. He got hurt. That was 2000. Arian Foster came in for his last. Is there a free agent Poop would sign today? Yeah, I would sign any of those cornerbacks. Rasul Douglas, Mike Hilton, Stephon Gilmore. Those were the guys. Okay. Hit that like button, JD, the great one says, please. Okay. Perk is the man. We love Perk. Ross doesn't care about winning, just the money. That'll be my comment on that. So let me end this. We're past an hour here. Let me end this on a better note than that, because that's yeesh. 2023 forever will forever be remembered by me for the boat racing by the Ravens. Dolphin offense has never been dominant since that day. Had some good days last year. I mean, they were good against the Raiders, against New England. Tua's more like Johnny Manziel. Come on. Seriously, guys? Really? Anyone think Tua could have beat the 85 Bears? Darren Sproles. Love Darren Sproles. Oh, because I said never had speed. Yeah, Darren Sproles later on in his career, as I recall, though. Merman, it was my birthday yesterday. I've been following this team since 1990, so only 4 AFC's championships and 6 playoff wins. 1992 was my favorite season. Well, belated happy birthday, Merman. 1992, of course, for those not aware, last time the Dolphins were in the AFC championship game. They were at home, no less, and they got punked by the Buffalo Bills, 29-10. Turned the ball over on offense and could not defend the screen pass to Thurman Thomas and Kenneth Davis. It was a pretty good butt kicking. Rashad, could this defense healthy be better than what we had last year? Deeper front seven. Yeah, but the back end's not anywhere the same. Merman, will Olympic Stadium in Montreal ever host a new MLB team, maybe with renovation? No, I think they'd be inclined to go to a smaller stadium. That place is a dump, by the way. Oof. Olympic Stadium. It's a big concrete toilet bowl. And I attended games there. Football game, Olympics in 76, Expos games, obviously. The only good thing about that stadium was the convenience of it. We had a subway station that got you under the stadium and never had to go outside. So, okay, here we go. Merman, why don't those teams, other Florida teams, Southern Cal teams, get called off for being bad in cold weather games to the extent Miami is? Because I don't know that the discrepancy is the same. Could be wrong. Oh, there you go. Chris, pre-internet, I couldn't wait for my Dolphin Digest, which I believe you wrote for. Love the show. Appreciate you. Thank you, Chris. I wrote for Dolphin Digest from 1989, July 1989 through, I think 2021 was my last year. So long time doing it. It's funny, though. I just watched a clip somewhere that's scrolling through Twitter, football's greatest moments or something like that. It was the final seconds of the 1989 season opener. My first game working for Dolphin Digest. Dolphins, Bills, 2 seconds left. Bills have the ball. Dolphins leading 24-20. 3-yard line, and the Bills ran a quarterback sneak with Jim Kelly, and he dove into the end zone for the touchdown, and the Bills won 27-24. So, Matto, thank you much, sir. Thank you for all the streams. I would thank you for watching. Thank you for the contribution. Much appreciated. And on that note, let me see if there's another one here, man. Hi, poop, hi. All we need to do is protect you. No, it's more than that. Sorry. Oh my God, I used to get Dolphin Digest. Yep, I was there. Like I said, 1989 through 2021. So, okay, that's going to wrap it up, guys. Or is there something else here? Nope, that's it. That's going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Again, as always, please like, subscribe. As I say, smash that like button. Check out the written content on the website, please. It's all free. MiamiDolphins.si.com. And check your notifications for the next episode of the All Dolphins podcast. In the meantime, have a great rest of your evening. Thanks, everyone.